Only 5 teams can win the 2026 World Cup. We analyzed all teams. The biggest sporting event on the planet, 2026 World Cup. 48 nations, 104 matches, billions of viewers, 6 weeks of pressure, and 1 trophy. Every country that has arrived in North America believes they can become world champions. The reality? Most of them can't. Some are simply not good enough. Some don't have the experience. Some have the talent, but not the mentality. And some will discover, far too late, that football's biggest stage is unlike anything they've ever faced before. So we did something simple. We analyzed every major contender. The squads, the managers, the form, the injuries, the tournament history, the bookmakers, the experts. And after looking at everything, only 5 teams remain. 5 nations with a genuine chance of standing on top of the football world when the final whistle blows in New York. But here's what makes this World Cup so fascinating. Every one of these teams has a weakness, a flaw, a question mark. Something that could destroy their dream. One team is relying on an aging legend. One hasn't lifted the trophy in over 2 decades. One has repeatedly collapsed when the pressure gets too high. One has football's brightest young superstar. And one might just be the most complete international squad we've seen in years. The margins are tiny, the pressure is enormous, and the difference between immortality and heartbreak might be a single moment. Let's begin. Number 5. Argentina. The champions nobody wants to face. Imagine winning football's greatest prize, achieving everything, completing the perfect story, and then being asked to do it all over again. That's the challenge facing Argentina. 4 years ago, they delivered one of the greatest World Cup campaigns football has ever witnessed. The final against France wasn't just a football match. It was a movie. A masterpiece, a 90-minute roller coaster that somehow became even crazier in extra time. And when the dust settled, one image became immortal. Lionel Messi, holding the World Cup. Finally. The debate was over. The dream was complete. The story had its ending. Except it didn't. Because now he's back. And so are Argentina. The question is no longer whether they were great. We already know they were. The question is whether they can do something football hasn't seen in generations, win it again. And that's where things become complicated. Because this isn't the same Argentina. The squad is older, the expectations are higher, and the target on their backs has never been bigger. Every team wants to beat the champions. Every stadium wants to see them fall. And every opponent knows exactly who they need to stop: Messi. At 38 years old, he remains the face of this team, the leader, the icon, the player capable of changing a match with a single touch. But Father Time never loses forever. Can Messi still dominate the biggest tournament in world football? Can his body survive 6 intense weeks of competition? Can he deliver magic one more time? Those questions hang over this entire campaign. But here's the scary part. Argentina are no longer dependent on Messi. That's what makes them dangerous. Because while the world focuses on the greatest player of his generation, a new generation has quietly arrived around him. Julian Alvarez has become one of the most complete forwards in world football. Relentless, intelligent, clinical. The kind of striker defenders hate facing. Behind him, Enzo Fernandez and Alexis McAllister provide creativity, control, and composure. Few teams can match their technical quality. Few teams can match their understanding. And then there's Rodrigo de Paul, the heartbeat of Argentina, the warrior, the player who seems willing to run through walls for this shirt. Every great international team needs someone like that. Someone who refuses to let standards drop. Someone who thrives in chaos. Defensively, Argentina might actually be stronger than they were in Qatar. Christian Romero brings aggression. Lisandro Martinez brings leadership. Together, they give Argentina a defensive foundation capable of competing with anyone. But perhaps their greatest advantage isn't on the pitch. It's on the touchline. Lionel Scaloni has transformed this national team. He understands tournament football, he understands pressure, and most importantly, he understands Messi. Every decision, every substitution, every tactical adjustment, everything is designed to maximize Argentina's chances when the biggest moments arrive. Because World Cups aren't won in group stages, they're won in moments. One pass, one save, one penalty, one piece of magic. And nobody understands that better than Argentina. But here's the problem. History is against them. No nation has successfully defended the World Cup in decades. Great champions almost always fall. The pressure becomes too heavy. The expectations become too great.
And eventually, someone knocks them off the throne. Argentina know that. The entire football world knows that. The question is whether this team cares. Because if Messi finds one last masterpiece, if Alvarez explodes onto the world stage, and if Scaloni can recreate the spirit that carried them to glory in Qatar, then the defending champions won't just be contenders, they'll be a nightmare. And that's exactly why they're number 5. But the next team on this list? They might finally have found the missing piece they've been searching for over 20 years. Number 4. Brazil. The sleeping giant has woken up. No country understands World Cups like Brazil. 5 stars above the badge, 5 World Cups. More than anyone else. Football isn't just a sport in Brazil. It's part of the country's identity. And for over 2 decades, they've been waiting. Waiting for the next great team. Waiting for the next magical campaign. Waiting for the moment they can finally bring the trophy home again. 24 years. Think about that. An entire generation of Brazilian fans has grown up without seeing their country win football's biggest prize. For most nations, reaching quarterfinals and semifinals would be considered success. For Brazil, it's failure. And that's exactly why this World Cup feels different. Because for the first time in years, Brazil looked like a team with a genuine plan. Not just talent, not just famous names, an actual plan. The arrival of Carlo Ancelotti changed everything. One of the most successful managers in football history, a man who has won everywhere. A man who has managed superstars his entire career. And perhaps most importantly, a man who knows how to win tournaments. For years, Brazil looked like a collection of brilliant individuals. Now they look like a team. More organized, more disciplined, more mature. And that's terrifying. Because the talent was never the problem. The talent is ridiculous. Let's start with the obvious one, Vinicius Jr. When he's at his best, he might be the most dangerous player in world football. One moment you're standing in front of him, the next moment he's gone. Explosive acceleration, fearless dribbling, and the ability to create chaos whenever he touches the ball. Defenders know what's coming. They still can't stop it. And if Vinicius catches fire during this tournament, Brazil become a completely different animal. Then there's Rafinha. Creative, consistent, intelligent. The perfect complement on the opposite wing. Together, they give Brazil an attack capable of frightening absolutely anyone. But tournaments aren't won by attackers alone. They're won by complete teams. And Brazil finally have one. Alisson remains one of the safest goalkeepers in football. A player who can save a tournament with one moment, one reaction, one impossible stop. Those moments matter. World Cups are decided by them. But this is where the concerns begin. Because Brazil still have weaknesses. The defensive structure has improved dramatically, yet questions remain, particularly in wide areas, particularly against elite opposition. And then there's Neymar, the biggest question mark in the entire tournament. A player who once looked destined to dominate world football. A player capable of brilliance that almost nobody else can replicate. But injuries have changed everything. Availability has become the issue, not ability. Because everyone knows what Neymar can do. The question is whether he can still do it when Brazil need him most. If he arrives healthy, Brazil becomes significantly stronger. If he doesn't, the responsibility falls almost entirely on Vinicius. And that is a dangerous amount of pressure for any player. Still, there's something about this Brazil team. Something different. Something familiar. The confidence. The balance. The belief. Maybe it's Ancelotti. Maybe it's the talent. Maybe it's simply Brazil being Brazil. Whatever the reason, they don't look like tourists. They look like contenders. Real contenders. The kind of team nobody wants to face in a knockout game. The kind of team capable of ending 24 years of frustration in one unforgettable summer. And if they do, it will be one of the greatest redemption stories football has ever seen. But the team ahead of them, their story might be even bigger, because they have something nobody else does. the greatest goal scorer football has ever seen, playing his final World Cup. If you are new to this channel, consider to like this video and subscribe to the Football Vault and turn on notifications so you never miss another football documentary. And trust me, the best stories are still to come. Let's continue. Number 3. Portugal. Ronaldo's last shot at immortality. 41 years old. Read that again. 41. Most footballers are retired. Most footballers are coaching. Most footballers are sitting in television studios discussing the next generation.
Cristiano Ronaldo is still trying to win the World Cup. And somehow, that sounds perfectly normal. Because nothing about Ronaldo's career has ever been normal. 5 Ballon d'Or awards, hundreds upon hundreds of goals, Champions League titles, league titles, records that may never be broken. For over 20 years, he has lived at the absolute summit of football. Yet one achievement still escapes him. One trophy, one final mountain, the World Cup. The greatest player in Portugal's history has never won football's greatest prize. And this is almost certainly his final chance. The perfect ending, or the most painful goodbye. But here's what makes this Portugal team so fascinating. For the first time ever, they don't need Ronaldo. And that might actually make them stronger. Because while the headlines remain focused on Cristiano, Portugal have quietly assembled one of the most complete squads in world football. Every position, every department, every area of the pitch. Quality. Quality everywhere. Bruno Fernandes continues to pull the strings. One of football's most creative midfielders, a player capable of unlocking defenses with a pass nobody else sees. Behind him, an incredible midfield engine, technically gifted, press-resistant, comfortable under pressure. The kind of midfield that can control matches against anyone. And then there's the defense. For years, Portugal's weakness. Now, possibly one of their biggest strengths. Ruben Dias remains a defensive leader. Nuno Mendes has become one of the world's best fullbacks. Diogo Costa continues to establish himself as one of football's elite goalkeepers. Suddenly, Portugal don't just look talented, they look balanced. And balance wins tournaments. We've seen it countless times. The most exciting team rarely wins. The most balanced team often does. Which is why so many analysts are quietly backing Portugal. Not because of Ronaldo, because of everyone else. And that's a sentence nobody expected to say 10 years ago. But talent has never been Portugal's problem. Their problem has always been something else. Pressure. The knockout rounds. The moments that define champions. Again and again, Portugal have arrived at major tournaments filled with hope. Again and again, they have fallen short. Quarterfinals, semifinals, heartbreak. The pattern repeats itself. And that's the fear. Because eventually, football becomes psychological. Eventually, talent stops mattering. Eventually, it comes down to who can handle the pressure. Can Portugal finally do that? Can they finally survive the moments that destroyed previous generations? Can they finally stop being dark horses and become champions? And then there is another layer to this story, one that goes far beyond football. A loss that still hangs over the squad. A reminder that some things matter more than trophies, more than medals, more than glory. That emotion will travel with Portugal throughout the tournament. Every anthem, every celebration, every difficult moment. And sometimes, emotion becomes fuel. Sometimes pain becomes motivation. Sometimes teams discover strength they never knew they possessed. Maybe that's what happens here. Maybe this is Ronaldo's final masterpiece. Maybe this is the tournament where Portugal finally break through. Or maybe the pressure becomes too much once again. Either way, their ceiling has never been higher. And that's exactly why they're number 3. But the next team? They're not carrying history, they're creating it. And they might have the most exciting player football has seen in years. Number 2, Spain. The future has already arrived. Every World Cup has a team that feels inevitable. Not because they have the biggest stars, not because they have the richest history, but because when you watch them play, everything makes sense. Right now, that team is Spain. Ask coaches, ask analysts, ask former players, ask anyone who studies football professionally. One answer keeps coming back. Spain might be playing the best football in the world, and that's a terrifying thought. Because unlike many international teams, Spain don't rely on moments. They rely on systems, patterns, movement, control. The kind of football that slowly suffocates opponents. By the time teams realize what's happening, it's already too late. Over the last 2 years, Spain haven't just been winning, they've been dominating. Elite teams, elite managers, elite players, none of it has mattered. Italy, Germany, France, Croatia. One after another, Spain have dismantled some of the strongest nations in football, and they've done it with a squad that might not even be entering its prime yet. Which brings us to the player everyone wants to talk about, the player who could define this entire World Cup, Lamine Yamal. Just saying the name feels ridiculous, because it still doesn't make sense. Players this good aren't supposed to be this young. At 16, he shocked Europe. At 17, he terrified defenders. Now, he's arriving at a World Cup as one of the most dangerous players on earth. Think about that for a second. Some players spend their entire careers trying to reach this level. Yamal reached it before becoming an adult. The dribbling, the confidence, the decision-making, the composure. Everything feels unnatural. Everything feels ahead of schedule. And perhaps most frightening of all, he doesn't seem nervous. He plays football like he's in a park, like pressure doesn't exist, like expectations belong to someone else. And that mindset changes everything. Because if Yamal performs the way many expect him to, Spain become nearly impossible to contain. Then add Nico Williams on the opposite wing, one of the fastest players in world football. Explosive, direct, fearless. Defenders already struggle against one of them. Against both? Good luck. And behind them sits the engine room, the area where Spain separate themselves from everyone else. Rodri, the conductor, the metronome, the player who controls football matches without most people even noticing. Some players dominate highlights. Rodri dominates games. When he's playing well, Spain dictate everything. The pace, the rhythm, the territory, the momentum. And alongside him, Pedri. Creative brilliance, technical perfection. The type of midfielder every coach dreams about. Together, they give Spain something incredibly valuable: control. Because when tournaments become chaotic, control becomes priceless. But here's the one concern, the one weakness, the one reason Spain are not number one: goals. More specifically, a traditional goal scorer. Spain don't possess the classic number 9 that previous champions often relied upon. Instead, goals arrive from everywhere: wingers, midfielders, late runs, system football. Usually, that's enough. Usually. But World Cups aren't normal tournaments. Sometimes everything comes down to one chance, one half chance, one finish. And when that moment arrives, who takes responsibility? That's the question Spain still need to answer. Because if they answer it, they may dominate international football for years. Not months, years. This team is frighteningly young. The future belongs to them. The question is whether the future arrives early. Because standing between Spain and the trophy is one final obstacle. One final team. The team almost everyone keeps picking. The team with no obvious weakness. The team with perhaps the deepest squad in world football. And that's why they're number one. Number 1, France. The team everyone is chasing. Some teams have great attackers. Some teams have great defenders. Some teams have a world-class midfield. France have all three. And that's the problem. Because when you analyze World Cup contenders, eventually you start looking for weaknesses, questions, doubts, reasons they might fail. With France, those reasons are surprisingly difficult to find. Top to bottom, this squad is absurd. Not good, not excellent, absurd. Every position, every role, every department, elite quality. And at the center of everything stands one man, Kylian Mbappe, the face of modern football. The player many believe is now the best in the world. And honestly, it's difficult to argue. We've already seen him dominate a World Cup. We've already seen him score in a World Cup final. We've already seen him produce one of the greatest individual performances football's biggest stage has ever witnessed. And somehow, he's entering his prime. That's terrifying. Because peak Mbappe might be football's most dangerous weapon. Defenders know exactly what's coming. They still can't stop it. Give him space, you're finished. Give him time, you're finished. Give him one mistake, you're finished. And the scary part? France don't even rely entirely on him. Because unlike many contenders, their depth is outrageous. Ousmane Dembele, Michael Olise, Eduardo Camavinga, Aurelien Tchouameni, William Saliba, Jules Koundé, world-class players everywhere. Some nations would build their entire team around just one of these names. France have several. That's what separates them. Injuries don't destroy France. Suspensions don't destroy France. Poor form doesn't destroy France. They simply replace quality with more quality. Very few countries can do that. France can. And they've been doing it for years. Which explains why they keep reaching the latter stages of major tournaments. Finals, semifinals, deep runs, again and again. Different players, different generations, same result. France remain there, lurking, waiting, ready. Of course, no team is perfect. There are concerns. Critics argue that France sometimes play too cautiously, too conservatively, too safely. At times they look like they're holding something back, like they're playing within themselves. And maybe that's true. But here's the counter-argument. World Cups are not beauty contests. Nobody remembers who played the prettiest football. They remember who lifted the trophy.
Didier Deschamps understands that better than anyone. He isn't chasing applause. He's chasing history. The mission is simple. Survive, advance, win, repeat. It's not glamorous. It's effective. And effectiveness wins World Cups. Which is why bookmakers keep returning to France. Analysts keep returning to France. Experts keep returning to France. Again and again and again. Because when you compare every contender, France consistently come out on top. The deepest squad, the most complete squad, the safest prediction, the strongest case. And that is why they're number one. So there they are, 5 teams, 5 stories, 5 genuine contenders. Argentina, the defending champions searching for history. Brazil, a sleeping giant desperate to wake up. Portugal, a golden generation chasing one final breakthrough. Spain, the future of football arriving right now. France, the complete package. The bookmakers have made their choice. The analysts have made theirs. The data points in one direction. But here's the beautiful thing about football. Football doesn't care. It doesn't care about predictions. It doesn't care about odds. It doesn't care about rankings. Every World Cup creates new heroes. Every World Cup destroys old expectations. Every World Cup delivers a moment nobody saw coming. Maybe France justify the hype. Maybe Spain announce a new era. Maybe Brazil finally end decades of waiting. Maybe Portugal give Ronaldo the perfect ending. Or maybe Messi writes one final chapter in the greatest story football has ever told. One thing is certain. The 2026 World Cup is going to be unforgettable. But now, it's your turn. Which of these 5 teams do you think will lift the trophy? And more importantly, which team have we underestimated? Drop your prediction in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the Football Vault, and turn on notifications so you never miss another football documentary. Because the road to the World Cup Championship starts now. And trust me, the best stories are still to come.